Hello to everybody on YouTube. Hi, YouTube people. Okay. Let's get started. I'm going to click the record button and then we're good to go. Fantastic. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another fantastic Coding Black Females event. We're really excited to get started. This evening, we are having a fantastic introduction to FinTech and a Java workshop with Duco technology. And we're joined by quite a few of the team. So we've got Daryl and Christian for the fireside chat. And then we have a few people for the workshop as well, which is going to be starting at 7 o'clock. So let's kick off. First of all, what I'll say is if anybody hasn't been to a Coding Black Females event before, we're a fantastic community for Black women in tech. We do what we can to support the community and get more Black women into the tech community as well. Tonight's event is to give you an insight into FinTech, but also get a chance to get your hands on some Java and get excited about that as well. So I'm really excited to crack on with this event this evening. So I'm going to get started. I will stop sharing my screen, and Daryl and Christian, let's have a conversation.
Yeah, let's do that.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to spotlight both of you so that we can see you both. And myself as well. Why not? I'll be spotlight too. That's awesome. Okay. Excellent. Great. So thank you so much for joining us. So this evening, we have got Daryl and Christian. Christian is the CEO of Duco Technology, and Darren is the VP of Engineering at Duco Technology. So it'd be great if you both could introduce yourselves. I know that it'll come across a lot better if you do that, and we can find out more about Duco as well. So Christian, do you want to start? Can you tell us a bit about yourself and also about Duco Technology?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So I'm Christian Entwich, I'm founder and CEO of Duco. I guess, you know, I'm a long-term technologist. I started programming when I was quite young. I'm originally from Vienna, Austria. I moved to the UK to study. So I did my degree at UCL in computer science, my PhD there as well in computer science, and then basically never had a job, right? So I set up a company with my professors, and we sold that company, and then set up this company with a co-founder. And actually Matthew joined. You know, Matthew's like employee number one at Duco, so he's living the dream there. Look at Matthew living the dream. I guess just a bit about Duco. So look, our mission is to make managing data easy, right? So we can talk a bit about, you know, FinTech and what it means later, right? The thing we really care about is how hard it is for very large organizations to control their data. And almost everything they do or have traditionally done around it is write specifications in a Word document for somebody to do some system integration or some something else with data, to give it somebody else who doesn't know the data, to then mistranslate it into code, and everything costs 100 million and everything's expensive. And what Duco basically does is it provides a software as a service platform that is used by business end users to normalize and reconcile data. And believe me, it's one of the biggest problems you've never heard of, right? There's 100,000 people in financial services sitting there with highlight pens and spreadsheets doing this by hand for mission critical businesses. It's insane. So we help them, you know, not lose their money, get the cost down, and hopefully get the people involved with manipulating this amount of data a nicer experience, you know, at work. So that's me. That's Duco. Hopefully that makes sense.
Absolutely. We can delve into some of that a bit more anyway in a moment. Daryl, do you want to tell us a bit about what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Daryl Orts. I'm the VP of Engineering at Duco. So I lead all of the developers and QA and DevOps and technical operations and a few other functions. I'm originally an American. I moved to the UK about 6 years ago, and I joined Duco about a year and a half ago. So I started my career as a developer, as probably everyone on this call did, and then I grew into more and more senior leadership roles, and I've been the VP of engineering in 7 or 8 other companies over the last 20 years or so. One of the things Christian talked about is we provide our service as a SaaS offering to our customers, and that's fairly unusual in the financial services industry, and was even more unusual when Christian started Duco about 10 years ago. What that means, I think you probably all know this, but we don't ship software to our customers for them to install it on machines in their data centers, right? We host it in the cloud somewhere, or in a private cloud somewhere, and they just log in to that service. And so that gives us some flexibility in how we build and deploy and update and manage the services for our customer, and we can dive into that in more detail. We're going through an interesting transition right now, moving from running our SaaS offering in data centers we control to AWS, Amazon Web Services. And we could dive into that as well, but I will stop talking and see where we want to go with the chat.
Yeah, no, I think that sounds really interesting. I think that it would be good for people to get a better understanding of what software as a service is, and as software as a service, sorry. And also, you've said that a lot of FinTech organizations don't really do a lot of SaaS. So how is this different? Like, what's taken you in that direction?
I mean, I'll maybe answer the business angle, and then Daryl can chip in on some more technical angles. I mean, for me, the thing about SaaS isn't so much that the thing runs in the cloud all of a sudden. It tends to change the entire company. So SaaS companies don't, if you open up the box, they don't look inside structurally like a software company. The way you support the customer is different, right? We use words like customer success, right? Whereas in a typical software company, you hand over the box, they install it, and it's mainly support, right? Because we're a subscription service, we tend to have to care quite a lot about whether our clients actually successful using the product, right? So we engage much more with them after the sale than a typical software company would. They send us all their data, right? So to state the obvious, there's some really good machine learning and analytics you can do when you have all data, right? So that's a big, big difference between working in a SaaS company and a software company. And then purely from an engineering perspective, it's a single version company, right? Well, I mean, within limits, right? But by and large, right, we control the upgrade process. And actually, that's one of the biggest differentiators, because once you get to hundreds of clients, if everybody has a really old, out-of-date version installed, just to move the client base forward and keep innovating becomes really, really hard. And if you control the upgrade process, you sort of retain a lot of agility. And just for scale, just so everybody has a sense of scale, Duco's, we're 120 people in 4 offices, although what the hell's an office, right? But let's just say in 4 locations globally, and scaling through that with SaaS just looks very different from software. Daryl, I don't know if you want to chip in any more sort of technical.
Yeah, so one of the things that's different about a SaaS offering versus software that you ship to your customers is we're completely responsible for making sure they have enough resources to do whatever they're doing, right? So if their process needs more memory, or the database needs more disk space to handle the millions of rows that they're putting in, or we need more CPU power because their job is going to take a lot of time, right? That's our responsibility to do, right? And there are different ways to accomplish that. And for our deployments in data centers that we control, a lot of it is fairly predefined, right? So we have a separate environment for each customer. It's called a single tenant environment, as opposed to every customer being in different or being in the same shared environment. So we need to decide how much resource, how much CPU power, or how much memory each of those instances have. As we're moving to AWS, we're moving to some new technologies. We're using Kubernetes to manage Docker containers and making some changes that allow us to elastically scale. So the system can automatically detect, hey, I need more memory, or I need more CPU power because this is taking too long, and just allocate that. So there are some interesting problems to solve there, right? We're not unique in solving them. A lot of people have. There's some sure that I.
Daryl, your connection seems to be coming in and out a little bit.
Oh, did we lose him?
Someone else talk.
Okay. All right. I'm going to hand over to Christian. Yeah. We've actually just had a question come in which says, can you explain what SaaS is? So if we take it right back to basics, like right back to the beginning, like what is SaaS so that people actually understand?
Well, I mean, it's sort of, if you take it right back to basics, right? So think about it as, maybe a good comparison is like Office 365 or something like that, right? So the traditional way of selling software is you buy PowerPoint, right? And then sort of you download PowerPoint onto your desktop, you install PowerPoint, and you start to work on presentations. Now, the new version of PowerPoint that's in the cloud, you don't install anything, right? You just go to an address with your web browser, and Microsoft hosts everything, right? So you don't have to install anything, right? So they're responsible for running the servers that run the software. It doesn't go onto your PC anymore. So that's really what software as a service ultimately is. The only thing you need to use Duco is a web browser. There's nothing to install.
Okay, I think that's cleared it up, I'm hoping anyway. Has that answered your question? We'll move on anyway to the next question. So fantastic. Yes, that's a yes, it has answered it. Amazing. So what skills does somebody typically need, I guess, on both sides? So one to get into FinTech, but also to work on SaaS products.
Yeah, I think it's a good question, because one of the important things here is I think there aren't just programming jobs in a company like Duco, right? So let's start there, right? And especially for people with a computer science degree or who've had a technical degree, there are still multiple career routes in a company like that. So yes, of course, now if you want to get into engineering in Duco, then we tend to place, and I'll let Matthew and maybe Daryl chip into some of the specifics, but we would place a lot less emphasis on whether you know a particular programming language inside out, and much more emphasis on, how good's your reasoning, right? Can you solve problems with an algorithm, right? So can you really think through all the gotchas that you're going to find in a complex computational problem? We would assume that you can learn a programming language if we make you use another one, right? So that's okay. So we wouldn't like look on a CV to see, oh, must have 10 years of Java experience. That's okay. On the other hand, there's also the role of product, and product is a great role to get into as well. So product, if you have more of a passion for the business of a software company, how do people use the product? What's the user experience? Talking to people on the client side to figure out what features we should build, but you have some technical understanding as well, and that's important, right? Then I think product is a really good way in. And there, I think we would start to be interested in, yes, do you have some technical background, but more importantly, how good are you with people and talking to clients and understanding their needs, and are you really passionate about that? Because then there are people who are more on the algorithmic side who really do not want to talk to clients, right? And that's okay too, right? And then there's a bunch of other stuff like customer success and DevOps, where it becomes much more about keeping the system up and running. And there, maybe you have to be a Unix shell junkie, right? or you're really into like MySQL and database administration or one of these things. So those are, on the more technical side, I think these are the sort of skills that we would look out for.
Okay. I don't know if you've got anything to add to that, Daryl. I think your connection's okay again.
It's okay. I agree with all the things. When we're hiring people, the language experience is secondary, right? I glibly say, right, when I'm looking at people, I look for attitude and aptitude. So will they fit in with our team and work well? And do they have the ability to learn what we need them to learn, right? So are they smart? Are you smart? Not how many years of Java do you have, or have you used MySQL? That's, if you've learned languages, you can learn more languages.
Okay, that sounds really good. So is it more that how do you determine if somebody is smart enough? So what does that recruitment process look like then, if you're saying that you're kind of looking at them from an aptitude perspective, really?
Depends on the job.
So for developer jobs, a big chunk of the interview is a programming exercise, right? So you choose a language you are comfortable with, and then there's a pair programming task where one of us is working with you to solve a problem. And it's not really, do you get it right? It's more about seeing your thought process. How do you decompose the problem, right? If you're on the wrong track and we give you a hint, do you take the hint, right? Suggestion, yes, do that. And are you able to change your way of thinking and explore new possibilities or new ideas in how to solve that? So thinking out loud is good. Asking questions, right? One mistake people make is, right, someone is describing the problem and you're already thinking about the code you're going to write to solve the problem. Asking questions about the requirements. What is the data that's going to come into this? Do I have to handle these edge cases? Is performance important? Do I need error handling, or is this just prototype code? Right? All of those things will indicate to us that you are thoughtful about software and building quality software, not just trying to write code as quickly as you can.
Okay.
So that's part of the interview process, right? There are a lot of other things we look at. There are questions about, right, sort of to gauge whether you will fit and whether you have the right level of curiosity and initiative and problem-solving ability and things like that.
Okay, but from the sounds of it then, it's more that you're looking for people to ask the right questions and to engage with the problem in the right way than at the solution. So it's about understanding the problem and developing your understanding of problem solving. And that's what comes from asking those sorts of questions, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely true. I mean, in the end, there is write some code to actually work on solving the problem, right? It isn't just let's see how many questions you can ask and avoid coming up with any code, right? There is the task of demonstrate that you actually some programming skill, but the right answer, not important thing in the exercise.
Okay. Right, so we've had a couple of questions come in, and one of them is around that interview piece, or around that preparation for that sort of thing piece anyway. Do you have any platforms, programs that you would recommend that people could use to improve their problem solving skills or comprehension skills?
I'll have to look to the team for that. I don't know. I mean, while everybody thinks about this, I'll just say one thing. There are other ways into a company like Duco too. We do internships, right? We do apprenticeships, and they don't play the same way. Then maybe somebody works with us for 2 months and they get a try and we get a try, and there are other ways in, right? But for a mainstream engineering job, it's the process that Daryl described. So I don't know, Daryl, if there are, is it sort of, can people try these platforms out that we use, so, or something like that?
I'm not sure. Nothing comes to mind, right? So we use an online service for a coding exercise that we give the problem, and then you can go away and do that. That's separate from the pair programming, probably more important part of the interview. That's directly one-on-one with one of our senior developers. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank on, right, go practice here. to write some code, or here are some good. I'm not a fan of trick puzzles or like coding, like algorithm tests, right? How well can you navigate a binary tree or something, right? I mean, in real life, in the work world, you have Google and you have books or colleagues at your disposal. I don't expect you to have memorized those things, but I expect you to be able to understand, to sort thing, and how different sorts have different behavior if you get more data or partially pre-sorted data or stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. So what I find helps sometimes, depending on the sort of test that you do, or that initial bit, can also be code wars. So code wars, whilst it has the initial coding tests, it also has code katas that you can try out where you're given a problem to solve. So even if it's not directly the same sort of problem, it makes you think about how you would solve a problem. And I think that could be a good place to start as well. So having a look at something like code wars. I've got a question here, which is around Duco Cloud and AWS. So somebody has asked, what's the difference in terms of capacity with Duco Cloud and AWS?
Yeah, I mean, so we run on AWS, right? So as highly as we think of ourselves, I don't think we're competing with Amazon on on infrastructure in the cloud, right? So we host on AWS. But we run an application on it, and it's our job to keep it up and running, right? So our clients don't have to manage AWS; we manage it for them.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of technology, so that's AWS. What other technologies do you use at Duco?
Well, quite a bunch, right? So I mean, Daryl mentioned, right? We run on Kubernetes, and Docker containers, sort of as far as the underlying stuff go, right? The code base is in a bunch of different programming languages, but most of it is Java, Ruby, and JavaScript. And quite a lot of JavaScript, like any modern web application. The bulk of it is sort of, we're still porting some older stuff, but it's mostly React now, any new code that we write on the front end. And then storage-wise, we've successfully, we've tried to break MySQL, and so far, I mean, I feel like maybe we're starting to succeed, but we'd be amazed what you can do to MySQL without breaking it. I think we're running like databases with 200,000 tables, and the thing doesn't fall over. It's actually unbelievable, right? And without a hell of a lot of tuning as well. So that we use Hadoop and Impala for some other data storage and scaling out. Is there anything else that's significant here, Daryl or Matthew, that you want to chip in?
I think there's the ClickHouse thing, which obviously is new for us. So as much as we've kind of hugged MySQL close to death, we are coming up against limits on it. So we've got a transformation project at the moment that's bringing in ClickHouse, which is kind of primarily data warehousing database, but works very well for our use case, to kind of add into the mix alongside MySQL rather than a replacement of it. So, and I think that's going to be a theme for us. I think we're going to have more diversity of kind of databases and other sort of infrastructural components, and we'll have, pick the right tool for the job increasingly.
One thing that's, Charlene, that's I think good to know about a company like Duco is the ratio of writing business logic versus the ratio of sort of high performance engineering. In some companies, you'd probably write more business logic than you write at Duco. There's a significant amount of performance engineering, well, using that term very broadly, that has to go on here simply because of the volume of data that we deal with, right? So scalability, and we can't fall over, right? We have the world's top banks and asset managers as clients. We cannot be down, right? So that adds a lot of pressure around scalability. So a lot of things that you would do easily and hack together and that work well in a context where you've got a few million lines of data in your database. Once you've got 10, 20 billion, records, etc. It's that's what makes this challenging for us.
Okay, so I guess with that in mind, like in terms of fintech, do you think, or is it the technologies that you are using, is that similar to other fintech companies? Like what's different between you and others? If there were technologies that you've listed, does that fit with other organizations as well that people could be interested in?
So I think for people here, I think it's important to understand one thing, right? So there are two types of companies that you would describe as fintech. One type of company wants to kill banks, right? And they say, the banks are out of date. Let's build better services, right? Like Revolut or, these types of companies or Nutmeg, right? And then there's a significant segment in fintech that's about making the existing financial system work better or faster or modernizing it, right? So we're more in that second camp. Some of them, the first camp is more B2C and, delivering new services to consumers. And I think your work experience in a company like that would be very, very different from your work experience in a B2B company like Duco. And it's not better or worse, but some people like B2C a lot more than B2B. So business to consumer, sorry if I'm talking sort of acronyms here. So it's business to business or business to consumer, right? Some people love dealing with consumers. Some people love dealing with businesses. So that's a really important choice, I think, to make. And with businesses, you're going to get these huge scalability questions and demanding clients. With consumers, you get big scalability more around the web front end because you might have 1 million users. We don't, right? We've got 4,000 or 5,000 users, but the data they hammer with is enormous, right? So I guess you will see similar technologies, but the day-to-day interaction with the client will be very, very different.
Oh, so that's interesting. So it's as though there's either really optimizing banking or changing banking, and you're in the optimizing area.
Yes, and insurance and other areas, right? We're not exclusive to financial services, but yes.
Ah, that's really interesting. I hadn't even thought of it like that, so that's really useful. Thank you. So I'm going to move on to the last question. We've had a couple of the questions come in. In fact, let's ask those questions anyway. I'm going to do it. One question that people have asked is around the roles that you were talking about. So you listed quite a few different roles. Do you see it as, is it easy to transition from those roles to other roles within an organization, or do you see them as quite rigid? What's the transition like?
So it depends a lot on the company. We used to be bad at this, and we sort of progressively got better at it. So now at Duco, when we open a new role, we advertise it internally, and people apply internally first, right? Before we sort of run around the whole market. So if, last time we opened a product role, I think 3 people from different parts of the company applied, right? For that role. There are some transitions that you're going to make that are going to be a one-way street for you. So I think that's important to think through. Some of them could be two-way. You can go from engineering to product, which is a really common way of people transitioning their career. But you could also go back from product back to engineering if you didn't like it, right? So Daryl can contradict me here, but I have a suspicion that if you transition from, say, engineering to, I don't know, sales, you're not going to make it back after 3 years, I suspect, right?
Yeah,
but it's unusual.
I think that all makes sense. I think another kind of transition, so Christian talked about horizontal transition, moving from one department to another, or a role, to a different role. There's also vertical transition, where you move into a more senior role or a leadership role in the same kind of thing you were doing. So you go from being a developer to a senior developer or a lead developer or a development manager. That very much is always a two-way street. It's very common for people to move into a leadership role or a management role and then decide, I don't really want this part, right? I'd rather be truly a developer or a lead developer, right? And other people embrace the management aspect of it, right? But there are definitely ways to grow as an engineer or a product manager or a QA person purely on a technical path. So you don't to move into management to gain seniority or money or responsibility, right? There are senior individual contributor roles as well as management roles.
I think that's always been an interesting thing, in that what I've always seen with tech roles throughout my career is that you're progressing, and then there's a point where you have to decide not to do any more code, which is the hardest decision, because you're deciding to not do the thing that you love anymore to move into management. So it's really not that management's a bad thing, there are benefits as well, but it's really good to hear that there's almost like two routes where you can become a specialist, like a technical specialist, or move into management, which still gives you that progression within the organization. So that sounds really positive. Somebody's also asked, would you look into developing with Flutter?
I don't know what that is.
Who knows it? Let's Google it.
I was about to Google it. I'm going to take that as a no, because no one knows what it is. So that's fantastic. I was actually going to ask, so the last question I was going to ask everybody was around innovation. So what innovation do you see unfolding in FinTech in the next few years? And I guess some of that we might already have seen with the pandemic and the change in the way that we're all working now, but what sort of innovation do we see unfolding in this space?
At this one, I had to think about this one beforehand, right? Because I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's interesting, right? So apart from Duco, I'm also involved in a venture fund, and there's so much going on in that area. But let's talk about this in two ways, right? Because remember, there's the let's get rid of banks, FinTech, and then there's the let's make the financial system better, FinTech. And I think you're going to see different things. So I think on the consumer front, one of the biggest trends I'm seeing is that we're going to see more and more applications that decide that they could also be a bank. So I'll give you an example, right? There are new companies out there that build accounting systems, right? Systems like not Xero, right, with an X, but systems like that decide, oh, hang on, we've already got all the data from these people and all their financial transactions. Why don't we just sell them banking services, because we can predict how good their loan repayments are going to be, right? And so that's sort of there's going to be more companies trying to be banks, and there's going to be more banks buying stuff and suddenly offering accounting software to the market, right? Because they think the client wants a more rounded experience. So I think that's a big trend we're going to see on the consumer side of things. On the B2B side, I mean, there's so much inefficiency in these large organizations. I think we're going to see a lot of work around natural language processing and processing all this unstructured data that they have. There's definitely not going to be a lack of investment in machine learning. That's for sure, right? Duco, even just ourselves, we do a lot of work around machine learning. And it's funny, actually, I didn't say that at all earlier. Oh, by the way, right? We're also really good at machine learning. And maybe the guys can tell you something about that later. A lot of investment in big data, crypto, one way or another, right? Not sure if anybody has checked the price of Bitcoin today, but it's eye-catching, right? And there's money piling in both on the cryptocurrency side and on the blockchain side. It's slightly overinvested, but something will happen. So worth getting into. Big trend around no-code application building. So there's a lot of new companies coming around that allow you to build UIs without writing code. And we're seeing that adopted more and more. And then also robotic process automation, sort of replacing humans clicking around, right? There's a lot of that we think will still pick up a lot more. So that's a quick one, right? But that's sort of the selection of trends that we see a lot, and there's going to be billions and billions of dollars going into this stuff.
Amazing, thank you. That was really, really insightful. Thanks. Daryl, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, that covered it. But while Christian was talking, I Googled Flutter. I put an answer in the chat that I think is the right answer. The short answer, no. Long answer, go read what I put in the chat.
For anyone who is watching on YouTube, Flutter is largely used for creating mobile apps. So, and Duco don't make mobile apps. So no, it's not on the cards anytime soon. What I so I think that's actually covered everything that I was going to ask you. Do we have any more questions from anybody who's watching? And if not, we will move over to the workshop section.
So with that, I'm going to have to drop off. So I will leave it in the capable hands of the people that Charlene's about to introduce to guide you through the workshop. So thank you, everybody, for joining. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the session.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Daryl and Christian, for taking the time to have a conversation about FinTech and SaaS and Duco. I think it's been really insightful, and people will definitely have some really useful information and tips about what they could do to progress in their career in that space as well, and understand the space a bit better as well. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and if there are more questions, you can contact us, right? Thank you from me too. I will drop as well and leave you in the capable hands of the team.
Are you happy for me to share your LinkedIn details with people so that if they do want to reach out, they can do?
Sure, go ahead. No, do
you can't say no, can you?
My name's public anyway, so go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't look like a recruiter, I'll probably accept the LinkedIn request.
Amazing. I will share your information with everybody. Thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Bye. I'm going to hand over now to the Intro to Java workshop. So we have Matthew, Anastasia, and Ken, who are going to be looking after the Java workshop. So over to you. For everybody who's sticking around for the Java workshop, here you go. We're going to get started. I'm handing over to you, Matthew.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Matthew. So today we've got a little workshop planned for you, which is Java-based, not starting from nowhere. Yeah, we've got some code. I think we've already shared the GitHub link so that you can pull down what we've got ready, and it's kind of got a little flavor of something a little bit related to what we do at Duco. So our first part of our kind of data quality sort of mission is reconciliation, as Christian said, and we've got a little kind of reconciliation-esque thing here. But I think the kind of message that we were thinking we'd try and say is that yeah, there's lots of stuff like here's an algorithm, here's an algorithm, here's an algorithm. And sometimes you need to be a little bit more flexible. When you're processing large amounts of data, the data can have different characteristics, and what works well can be different between different situations. So we have, I think, a little setup list of stuff. I don't know if you want to run through this, Stacey, just because you've done a bit more of this stuff.
I just want to make sure that everyone have installed npm. So npm, this is something what we use. So in few words, we're going to use a really simple React UI. The backend code going to be on Java 8, to be precise. We're going to use JUnit for writing tests. And obviously, you need the Maven to run. I don't know, to compile your code, and yeah, that's pretty much all. All description, like how to install every single thing, like npm Java and Maven, it's described in README, and link I shared in the chat. And make sure that you have opened your favorite IDE. I personally recommend IntelliJ, but yeah, but feel free to choose what looks better to you. Yeah, that's probably all what I want to say.
Cool. So let's just talk about what this whole reconciliation matching thing is, right? You've got two sets of data, and you want to find the ones on either side that match together. Now, what we're going to present today is quite a simplified version of that. You're not going to make any money off what we do today, but when it gets more complicated and more business-like, where the data has, each record has, maybe hundreds of attributes in it, and you need to apply numerical tolerances and stuff, that gets quite complicated. But some of the stuff we're going to show today is core. just to give you an idea of scale in the problem, so we've got some test files that we'll generate for you, which have sort of 25,000 lines in them. This is a number that means that your Java code hopefully will run in a measurable amount of time rather than instantaneously. We deal with problems that go up to sort of the tens of millions. So whilst this isn't kind of Twitter big, we're doing different things with it, and that's what makes it there. So I think, first of all, what we're going to show you is, Stacey's just going to show you the React app, which you'll be able to run, and this will give you a little playground where you can plug in some data and see it match, and then we'll talk you through the other bits of code, and then we'll move on to getting you guys to do something.
Yeah. So let me just try to share the screen. 1 second. So could you tell me, do you see the screen?
Yes, we do.
Awesome. So what you see here, 1 second. Yeah, it's a simple UI for our reconciliation problem. So on the left side, so basically we have two sides, right? We want to check data coming from left side and from right side. How many matches do we have? How many unmatches? And result going to be listed here. So let's go with really like simple data, and let's say something like this. And on the right side, let's say we have this. Okay, that was unplanned match. Yeah, let's get some random stuff like this. And let's say that we don't have absolutely same number of records on the left side and on the right side. So let's press the match. Oh, that's probably, let me rerun. I need to rerun application. Sorry about that.
While Stacey's just fixing that, because of course all software is treacherous, right? For those of you who are sort of embarking on the start of your career, get used to this happening to you, because the computers hate us. They're not our friends. So what we have in the code that you hopefully have downloaded, the stuff that is, just interrupt me when you're ready, Stacey. The thing that we're most interested in is this guy called Matching Service. He is in the Duco tutorial service package, and default matching service is something that Stacey's written, which will take the data that you see on the screen and it will try to match it. If you guys pop that open and have a look through, then see it's pretty simple Java, right? We have two lists of this record data structure that I'll show you in a minute, and we iterate through one of them, iterate through the other in a nested loop. Nice kind of basic Java stuff.
I think we have a picture. So basically, why that previous happened, just because I needed to start properly my backend server. So UI was ready, backend wasn't ready. So that was my fault. Sorry about that. So what we see on the left side, we have one record, and on the right side we have two records, right? And the first lines we expect to match, and this is exactly what we see in the result. So this is a match, and we specify that on the left side, line numbers like 0, like just to be more precise, left on the line 0 and right on the line 0, they have a match. And we have one left over from the right side, which is unmatched. So yeah, this is how UI looks like. As well, you might write, if you open test section in the project, which I'm going to show you in a minute. Let's go there. We have test. So alternatively, you can write test to check how correctly your algorithm is implemented. But probably before that, I don't know, Matthew, I would let you finish some introduction, like why basically why are we doing this? Why do we care about matching, right?
Sure.
Just before we do that, I'm going to run a quick poll to see who has IntelliJ ready and who has GitHub ready as well. I'll let you carry on, but I'm just going to do the poll now.
Sure.
So, in fact, Stacey.
Yep, I can stop sharing.
No, I was going to suggest actually just you move over to the default matching service class, and we just talk about that briefly, and then maybe we can talk about getting stuck in a little bit.
Of course. So
one thing I will say is that obviously we've delivered a project here. There's a bunch of code in here. So yeah, regardless of how much you get through tonight, or if you want to take this away, obviously there's something here to play with and think about, and hopefully there's some fun to be had. So here we go. This is a thing that does reconciliation. This is what's going to make Christian and all of us at Duco hopefully phenomenally rich. So
maybe before that, maybe, sorry for interruption, a couple of words about like structure. Shall I answer this question as well? Like have I installed? Okay, sorry, I'm not gonna look into that. I just wanted to show, 1 second, our, like, what do we have in our repo? So obviously we have under service, we have, let's probably start with, with models. So this is our match result record. Record, it's 2 records, they might create a match. So that's pretty much straightforward. Then we have some API related stuff. It's mostly just to surface information on UI. Data generation, in that package, we're going to have some logic to generate data for our tests. We're going to use probably loaded testing with lots records just to check how good our algorithm is. And by saying good, I mean how fast it is, because time is money. Yeah, and obviously service, and as you can see, default service implements a matching service interface. So as you can see further, we might have, and we will have, more implementation of this particular interface, which going to solve same problem of matching, but in slightly different way. Sorry, Matthew, carry on.
Yeah, no, I think actually what we should do is get everyone running some tests and seeing how your code works. So can I ask everyone who's in a good position inside the project, inside IntelliJ, you should find a class called File Writer. That is it's actually a runnable Java program. And what all this is going to do is produce some files in your source test resources directory that the matches consume. We're generating these just because it makes the download a little bit smaller. And also we've written this so that if you guys want to scale up for more data, you can just do that with this script. So if you open up File Writer in IntelliJ, sorry, I'm not super IntelliJ literate. In Eclipse, I'd just right click on it and do Run as Java application. There will be a similar thing in IntelliJ. Stacey?
Yeah, I just open it in GitHub, but I can show in IntelliJ. 1 second. Do you see my IntelliJ?
Yep.
Yep. So it's not the right. So here we go. So File Writer. To run it, just press it like run File Writer main. Sorry, and that's going to generate files which we are planning to use for our tests. Here we go.
Cool. So everybody's been able to do that. Now what you should be able to do is open up the default matching service test and run it. Now this is where things could get interesting, because this is intentionally designed to be a little bit slow so that we will get a good feeling when we write something better. I guess Stacey can run this. So
I'm running this as well, and it's going to be spoiler, but you have probably 30 seconds break.
That's good because you can talk about it. So in here, there's 3 test cases. The basic test, which has low volume, and you can see exactly what it does. It creates 4 records and matches them. And then 2, which are file-based off the files we just created. So these are 2 different files, and the data in it has different characteristics. And we're going to write algorithms that work well or less well with these different characteristics. So these are pretty big files. They're kind of dumb test data, but they've been engineered to have certain characteristics and to give you a decent match rate. So when this eventually finishes, you might need a new laptop, Stacey. Mine's quicker than this. There we go. So that was 46 seconds, right? Why is this slow, right? We've got 25,000 items in here. If we look at the implementation of default matching service, we're going to do a little bit of computer science quickly. This implementation has 2 nested loops. And
to be honest, it's very naive implementation.
It is, yeah.
And it's basically something what you would naturally, how you would naturally match. Sorry, I'm just trying to switch to UI, and yeah, sorry. So how you would naturally look at the data and compare. Basically, you're going from one, you're fixing, let's say, a line on the left side, and then you're trying to find first match on the right side. And wow, it happened like a first line. And how you compare 2 lines, you basically compare first field with first field, and if there's no match, it's not matching, right? But your goal is compare every single field in the line and make sure that all of them are the same, right? So that's pretty much what's happening. Sorry, I'm gonna move it. That's pretty much what's happening in this implementation. So we have our input lists, input records, and we're saying like, let's go and check every single line on the left side with every single line on the right side. And we would compare, like I'm going to show you later how we checking that it's a match, but we're trying to match every single pair of lines, like from the left side and from the right side. And if there is a match, it's present, we removing that those records from left side and from the right side. If there is no match in the end, all leftovers we're adding to unmatched list. And as Matthew said, that it's very naive and inefficient algorithm, basically because we have like nested loops. And just to explain why it's inefficient, we need to talk a bit about big O notation, and basically what it means. It's big O notation. It's something how we describe how quickly it it grows relative to input. So input. So let's say input get larger. So we have like massive list on the left side, massive list on the right side, and how quickly our efficiency of our algorithm gets worse. And in this particular case, pretty much quickly, because it's n times n. And it's quadratic time. And there is a way to improve that by maybe finding some, how to say it, maybe somehow looking at the data, we might figure out how to not simplify, make our algorithm more efficient, cut the corners, or maybe reorganize data to make this algorithm quicker, if it makes sense.
Sure. So let's talk about what that looks like. So in our tests, there are a couple of test cases, and the one that's interesting right now for us is this chap called unique single field in position 2. I've named that to make it confusing. So this test case, which is you can see in the base matching service test, has two files. There are three attributes in each row of the file. There are 25,000 rows in each file, and I'm going to give you a tip here. I'm going to tell you that second column, all the values in there are unique, and we can use this in a very helpful way. So I'm just going to share my screen a second and talk you through an algorithm.
I'm going to stop sharing then, right?
Cool. And then we can let you have a go at writing some stuff. Sorry, I'm terrible at my window management. And so now I'm searching around trying to find the one with my slides. Here we go. So let's present that, and I can share it. Okay, so here is a simple matching thing like Stacey showed us. This has just got one attribute, right? And we're just going to try and match the numbers. We could do that in the algorithm that Stacey's got. What we do is we'd start with 4 and we'd run all the way through this list until we find 4 and then go great. Then we go to 2 and go all the way through, and then you go to the end. And this is why you have this kind of high complexity. But how about we do this? First of all, we sort them. This is something which has a cost to it, right? You don't get this for free. But if we're going to talk about that complexity thing, it's proportional to n, the number of items, times log n. We can talk about that on the chat if you guys want later, if you're not familiar with that notation or with sorting, and we can have a little chat about that. But this is all library stuff, right? Nobody writes this themselves. And now how do we match it? Let's go through both of our lists at the same time. So we start off looking at 1, and we go, 1 and 1, they're the same. So let's say they match, and we can move on. 2 and 2, they're the same. They match, we can go on. Now, 3 and 4, they're not the same. And in particular, so they don't match. And in particular, we know that 3 is less than 4. So we're going to carry on going on the right-hand side until we find something which is 4 or more, and then say, do they match? Yeah, they do. And then we do the same with 5 on the other side. It's less than the 6 on the right-hand side. So we'll move forward. And we can work through this. And we find our matches. We've got 4 things that match, 2 things that don't. Why is this good? Well, in terms of this kind of complexity thing we talked about, we've gone from n squared complexity that Stacey talked about. And when we've got 25,000 items, 25,000 squared is a big number. And we've actually got now something which is basically n times log n. So for 25,000 items, that's going to be, well, a lot less than 25,000 squared. I'm afraid I'm not able to do that maths in my head. So your first task is to, what I strongly suggest you do is take a copy of Stacey's default matching service I'd suggest calling it something like sorted matching service. And there is in fact already a sorting matching service test that exists, which will run. So if you open up sorting matching service test, if you create sorting matching service as a class, it will just use that.
Actually, it doesn't exist yet. It just we need to create that.
Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong branch. I beg your pardon.
It wouldn't compile otherwise. Yeah.
So two things. Take a copy of default matching service test and call it sorting matching service test, and take a copy of default matching service and copy it, and then we can start hacking that around. So your goal is to take that kind of algorithmic concept that we said here of first sorting the data and then iterating through it to find your matches. And hopefully what we're going to find is this runs a lot quicker than 46 seconds. So I think we're going to be here. We can chat nonsense. We can chat online. I think if anyone wants to talk individually, we have the option to break out, and we'll fill in, encourage you guys to start writing some code. This isn't, so it's kind of funny given that we were talking about Duco's approach to interviewing, in that this is quite algorithmic. But when we do interviewing, even if we have an algorithmic problem, we're not trying to beat people's heads over algorithms. So yeah, we're not going to sit here and not help you guys on this. So fire away with your questions, and we'll give you all the help you need, to the point of, I think at some point we can share some code, maybe in 10 or 15 minutes. Just to give you an idea of where we'll be going after this, we'll then look at a different shape of data where this algorithm no longer works, and instead you need something else.
Oh, sorry. What I was going to say was I will open up a breakout room. If anybody would like to go in there and get some help, then I don't know if Ken or somebody would like to go into the breakout room to be there as a helper. And then for the next 10 minutes or so, people can jump in there if they want to get some help. Is that okay, Ken? I've just thrown that on you.
Yeah,
I think me and Ken can go there. We can come back later, right?
Yeah,
just
sure.
To have more people.
I'm just going to fire a couple of little API tips into the chat as well, just because it can save everyone a bit of Googling. Kind of like Daryl was saying, you know, if you were interviewing at Duco, we wouldn't expect you to remember every method and class in the standard libraries. And I don't see why we should bother you with that when it's pretty easy. So I'm just going to pop some stuff in there as well. Just going to mute myself briefly, otherwise you're going to hear me kind of talking to myself and making strange noises.
Okay, so everybody, I have opened up a breakout room called Get Some Help. So if you would like any assistance, then feel free to jump in there. Stacey's already jumped in there. So you open up the breakout room and just click join. That should work. Can people see that? Can people see the breakout room?
It popped up for me. I have a little pop-up on my screen, so I guess yes.
Is anybody here this evening? Do we have any attendees?
Have we driven them all away? Have we been talking into the void?
I know, imagine. We've just been talking to each other, oh no. So yeah, so feel free to jump into one of the breakout rooms if you want. Otherwise, are you following along okay? Feel free to turn on your mic and speak. That's okay as well.
Also, you know, not to subvert the workshop, but I'm sure if there's more stuff you're curious about knowing about Duco and, you know, careers and stuff, I'm sure we'd be happy to chat about that as well.
Awesome.
Hi, hello. Don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
Hi. Thanks for coming and giving us this Java workshop. I just wanted to ask, what's like the advantage of using Java for a task like this compared to like a language like Python? What's the main advantage?
So, I mean, for me, in terms of writing the code itself, this is not a complicated. Well, this is not a task that requires, you know, benefits greatly from any particular language feature. So I'd expect you to be able to do broadly the same stuff in Python as you could in Java, right? They all have lists and loops and stuff, and that's kind of, we're doing fairly bread and butter stuff. In Duco, sometimes the language choice is more focused, and in particular, Well, so the three main languages, right, that we use outside of the browser are Ruby, Java, and C++. And it's kind of an onion skin, right? Ruby we use for serving APIs, and Ruby is really quick to write in, it's really hospitable, and it's a nice, fun place to be, but it's not very fast. Java, getting a little bit trendier than it was a few years ago, but it's a more kind of slightly more staid, slightly more restrictive programming language, a bit more boilerplate. You know, people hate typing, but it's a lot faster. The JVM these days is spectacularly fast and kind of gets close to kind of native compiled code. However, down deep in the middle, then you've got some C++ code, which Christian wrote in the original. Yeah, he doesn't blow his trumpet too much, but Christian, you know, he is a technologist, and a lot of the core stuff we run comes from stuff he wrote in the first place, which is quite a nice legacy for him to have. But our matching engine that does the stuff we're talking about here actually is written in C++. And that's partly because it gives us a lot of memory control, and it gives us more optimization options. But, you know, to steal from Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. And, yeah, you can cause yourself trouble in that kind of world as well. But, yeah, for processing large amounts of data, languages like Java and C++ are really performant. Now, Python, obviously, I think Python is more performant than Ruby, for example, and obviously it gets used a lot in machine learning applications. So, yeah, I'm not the greatest expert on Python performance characteristics, but if you're doing this for real, you'd want to think about what the runtime performance of your language was. Sorry, that was a lot of words. Did that make any kind of sense?
No, yeah, no, it did. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I think it's very important as well. What is your goal, immediate goal right now? For example, I would choose Ruby and Rails for prototyping, because it's super quick to set up something. If you really want to go and check your idea, with Java, it's a bit like you need to invest more time. You need to invest more lines of code, but you feel more comfortable, if it's right word to say to describe something like that. So when you write Java code, you kind of protect it naturally from language perspective, like types, like types of your variables are transparent. You know what to expect, basically. In Rails, everything's becoming like everything is easy if you accept default concept of Rails. So if you want to build up something custom, you might need a bit of dancing. I'm not saying it's not possible, just you're going to invest more time in that. That's why Rails is so good when you don't really need to build something very specific and very niche, but more like, okay, I need to go and check this idea and maybe present something to a client quickly, and then write, like many people just use it as a presentation, and then when you get thumbs up from client, they invest properly into project. So
it's more like use it for like the rough draft, so to speak.
Yeah. So I'm quite aware that Ruby Rails is very popular with prototyping as well. And C++, it's very popular choice when you really need something very custom and very quick, and yeah, something like that. That's why C++ mostly, or even POC is used for example, games or something like this, when you really need very responsive interface or something like this.
I mean, one of the things to note with Duco, of course, is that whilst we're still a young company, we have had our service live for sort of 7 or 8 years. So whilst technology does change and you do implement stuff, you know, would we necessarily make exactly the same decisions now that we made then? You know, if we were starting now, we might be writing a matching engine in Go or Rust or something like this. Yeah, there are options that we didn't have back then that we could explore that could be as good or better choices than C++ or Java, although often with the same kind of trade-offs that Stacey was talking about.
And I guess as well, the time it would take to change everything from.
Oh yeah. I mean, so at the moment we have we have a pretty big user interface which had a couple of generations of now out of date technology in it, and we're doing a big push through rewriting everything in React. And I like to joke that we'll be finished with that just in time for React to no longer be fashionable, and then we need to do it in something else again. But I think you do get the UI space, I think, churns relatively quickly. And again, as you go kind of deeper down your stack, your choices remain good for longer, I think. But a lot of that also has to do with not just about the technical side of it. It has to do with recruitment. You know, we were aware that trying to recruit UI specialists to work on out-of-date UI code was not going to work. So we needed to, whether we liked it or not, and we did like it, we needed to embark on this kind of renewal process. Now, get down into the matching engine. The matching engine is actually really stable. It doesn't change a great deal. So there's less impetus to do that. And C++ is a more kind of standard skill set that doesn't change so much. I wonder how Ken's getting on in the breakout room, or if anybody else needs any assistance right now.
So we have one person who has joined there. If you can't see how to join the breakout room and you would like to, do drop us a message and I can put you in, or you can see the pop-up at the bottom of the screen. But we can see that some of you are following along, which is awesome. And if anybody else would like to follow along, then go ahead, or we can put you in a room to get some support if you need it.
So one thing as well we should mention, and Stacey can probably advise how to do this. Once you've written your new matching service algorithm, you can plug that into the front end, right, and rerun it, and as well as writing those, if you want to write your own test cases directly in code, you can also play with it through the front end. And I imagine Stacey can point out how to do that. Just really stitching up Stacey there.
Stacey's going to be all ready to explain it when she comes out of the breakout room, I'm sure. So how are people getting on with the exercise?
Good. Okay, for now.
Okay, great. Tessie, I think I saw you were following along. How are you getting on?
So I was following along and then I had to sort out homework. So I'm trying to catch up now. Yeah, I've got the little one's homework at the same time as doing this. But it's really interesting, guys. And I'm just looking through all the files, and anything I've missed, I'll just go back and watch it.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me put you on the spot, Tessie. Tessie ran
absolutely fine anytime. I do it to the students, so it's only
thank you.
One day.
Tessie ran an intro to computer science
cool.
workshop for us a few days ago. So she's the head of computer science at a secondary school in Birmingham, and she ran a session for us. So very excited to have her along today, following along with this as well.
That's really interesting. I mean, I'm not sort of deep in the education system at the moment, but my impression is that the kind of secondary education on computer science is much better than when I was at school. I mean, I did my GCSEs in the late mid 90s, and one of my GCSEs was information systems, which was pretty lame, to be honest. There was no programming content to it. It was just kind of ideas. I think it's really encouraging to see a sort of more real curriculum is available.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's really good at the moment. The level of Python they get to learn, I think goes all the way to like A levels. They do projects. We do projects from now, like guessing quizzes and sorting search and sort algorithms, which are really good as well. So I don't think they understand how lucky they are, because like you said, when I did IT A level, I was screenshots and spreadsheets and databases and that was, yeah. So they don't actually appreciate it. They're just like, this is boring, but I just make them do it.
We should make them do front page. Front page was what I did when I was at school.
Front page. Throwback.
Maybe a Microsoft Access database if you're really lucky, right?
But there's something called Glide apps, which I'm going to run this year, which is making apps from spreadsheets. So I hope they find that interesting. I hope. If not, I'm going to get egg on my face as usual.
So, I mean, for a long time, we used to kind of say that our primary competitor was Excel, because a lot of our early success as a business was replacing, Christian talked about the kind of manual processes. A lot of our early success was taking people who were doing these manual or semi-manual processes with really elaborate Excel spreadsheets and giving them a tool that they could move into, which was less fragile, gave them more, user control, more governance, and it just worked a lot better as well. But Excel is genuinely like an amazing thing. It's crazy what it can do.
It's insane actually, because I think for pretty much all of my career, the applications I've worked on have been taking people out of Excel into an application. And I've literally never understood why people really wanted to stay in Excel until now. I use spreadsheets a lot, and I'm like, I don't want to leave. I don't want an application. I just like my spreadsheet.
So one of our challenges for the UI part of what we do is that our users are generally very Excel literate, and for navigating large amounts of data, they're used to doing it with the idioms they know in Excel. So we try to make our results interface as similar to Excel as we can. So it has the same kind of sorting and filtering controls. There's a big technical challenge in that, because trying to do those operations over large amounts of data, this is where the bit that I was talking about new and different database technologies comes in, because there's a limit to how far you can take that in more traditional relational databases. But yeah, people love their spreadsheets. I'm just going to hop in the breakout room and just check whether I can help with anything or how people are getting along.
I think they've all come out now.
Oh, have they? Okay, cool.
Yeah, it looks as though everyone is back in the main room.
Shall we have a little, just so that even if people want to run on with this afterwards, should we have a little chat about the next stage of this, and then we can carry on talking about the first bit we introduced?
I think it's very important just to say that that repository which we're working on, it's going to stay, so you can always come back and go through the code again, and actually, I don't know, answer, ask more question. I'm gonna answer for sure. And equally, we're planning to share implementation for all our tasks later on, like probably maybe tonight or tomorrow. So you actually can compare your thoughts with our version of implementation. So fear not.
And the great thing is, because it's Stacey's repository, she's got all the commits. So if you think any of it's really stupid, then you won't be able to tell that I wrote it.
I see. That was your plan.
It's cunning, isn't it? I'll tell you what, I'm just going to pop up the second half of the presentation we were looking at earlier, because it kind of introduces the next sort of algorithmic concept. And this is particularly kind of close to our heart in Duco, because it's quite similar to what is running most of the time on our data. So let me just share this one. Here we go. Do you have my presentation, guys?
Yes.
Cool. So here we've got an example which is a little bit more like the data that we've given you in the tests, in that this is data with multiple attributes. So just like just like in the bit that you're working on at the moment, you can choose to sort by just one of these. But actually, in this case, none of these columns are unique. So that's kind of interesting. If I sort by the first column, then I've got two values with A, 1, 2, 1, 3, two values with B and one value with C. So the kind of traversal we're talking at the moment is not necessarily good enough. Now, there's an obvious kind of this is where we get into the kind of toy example space is not so great. The obvious answer is, well, I could sort by multiple columns. That's not what we're going to suggest for you here, because in practice, in the kind of real world data we're dealing with, where there's millions of rows and hundreds of columns, that becomes impractical. And moreover, some of the features that we have for matching make many columns not suitable for doing that. The fact that we can allow people to have numerical tolerances between number values and stuff like this actually means that you can't do that sorting approach. When you've got that unique column, it's great, but when you haven't, not so much. So instead, we get into a bit of a classic bit of computer science stuff, which is to kind of divide and conquer. So this looks like sorting, but really what I'm doing is I'm saying, oh, I can break these into useful little groups, which are kind of the same. And the key insight here is that if they're going to match, they have to match on the first column. They have to match on that kind of alphabet column. But we've now got smaller problems. And even if we just use the algorithm that we had in the first case, Stacey's algorithm, it's still going to be much quicker, right? So if we used Stacey's algorithm on this, it would take in the order of 5 times 5 units of time. Whereas in this case, to do it with this little unit of stuff would be 2 times 2. This would be 2 times 2, and this is 1. So that actually adds up to 5 versus 25 to do it in crude terms. So although you still have, even though you're doing this quadratic thing still, it's at a much smaller scale. So the suggestion, what you'll find, just to do spoilers, is that even once you've got your sorting matching working, one of the test cases is going to fail, almost certainly, because the second test case in our test file, which is the 3 evenly distributed fields test, these guys aren't unique. You're not going to be able to sort them easily in a useful way. But this approach where we're going to suggest that you pick one of these columns, we've engineered it so they have a nice distribution of individual values. You'll be able to sort, create a data structure separating out values which share something in common. So for example, if you did it by this first column, you'd say, I'm going to put, create a list or a set or whatever of all of the things that have A there, and I'll do it on both sides. And then you can kind of do this meta matching thing. You say, okay, well, I'm going to match the A things with the A things, and then the B things with the B things. And this will actually, you'll find this will give you but this will give you the same kind of performance improvement for the test cases we've given as the the sorting approach does. This is not something that I don't think anyone will have time for this in this session, but at Duco, we take this a step further and we do these groups in parallel. So we use multiple core processors to do multiple things at the same time. So the elapsed time for the user is even faster.
So in other words, we just working with the not ideal data. Instead of we just saying okay, we don't have unique column, but we want unique column because we know how to work with that, and we know how to work with that in very effective way. So we're going to create that. That's why we kind of idealizing and creating buckets where we have that unique column. And working in parallel with those buckets, this is where we're getting this extra time saving extra time, not gaining extra time. I think, Matthew, if you have any suggestions, like maybe how to, maybe as example from Duco, how do we usually find that column which we want to break buckets?
Sure. So it's an interesting one, because while in this exercise we've talked a lot about the kind of time cost of doing this, there's also a memory cost, right? And often doing stuff quickly uses more memory. We already use a lot of memory because we store all of this data in memory to make it fast, and we try not to use too much more. So if you were trying to look for a unique column, for example, you could use up you could use quite a lot of memory doing that, because you'd need to remember all the values you've seen, and okay, when you start seeing repetitions of values you've already seen, if you're inspecting a particular column, yeah, they die. But that's memory you have to use. There are extremely useful data structures called Bloom filters, right? These are very cool. I have no idea how they work. That give you let you kind of track whether you've seen a particular value in a data set, and it does it in this kind of probabilistic way, so that it gives you with a certain probability, if it says yes, you've seen it, you're sort of X% sure. So we use structures like that to get an idea of the overall statistics of the fields in our data, and that then lets us say, oh, okay, so this one looks pretty unique, or this one is not unique, but it looks like it's got a nice even distribution of values that we could use to create buckets. And we have some statistical measures we use to decide whether those buckets are nice even sizes, and then we can choose how to attack the problem. So it's a little bit, that's the kind of 10,000 foot version of that. In practice, for an exercise like this, I think keeping, when you iterate through your list and you're trying to work out, for example, if it's unique, you can just keep a set, and as you encounter each value, check for membership in that set. If it's already there, then you're not in a unique place anymore. If you're trying to do the grouping thing and get an idea of what the statistics look like on that, data structures like bags or multi-sets, as they're sometimes called, will let you kind of keep a count alongside your values, and then you could go, okay, so I had 4,500 value A, 6,000 value B, 7,000 value C. Okay, that's not bad. That's a nice distribution. I'm going to make some buckets based on that. However, it isn't an exact science. We do have parameters which are kind of best guess hard coded as what good looks like, and you refine those over time. But for us, actually, on average, our grouping works very well and it's very efficient.
I think, yeah, you said right, like for good algorithm, and especially if we go into, like, you can see it in recursion, for example, when it's very important to understand when you want to stop your algorithm, because if something goes wrong, you don't want your algorithm goes forever, right? Or taking too long. It's better to stop and say, like, something goes wrong, maybe you have to rethink your data, or actually matching parameters which you suggested to us, because we ask our clients to tell us which fields are important for them, are important to have a match. Because again, I'm probably talking a bit further than our exercise, but I think it's interesting. So we're just saying that, what if in the line of 5 fields, you really care about only 3 fields, and you tell us, like, I don't really care about field number 4 and 5. They could be any, but I do care that field number 1, 2, 3, they should match, and that's going to call a match. So yeah, if we notice that during our when we check in like matching of input data, if it takes too long, maybe setup of that matching process is not optimal. And I think for our clients, they would prefer to know earlier than later that it's basically not effective configuration. I don't know how much relevant it was, but I thought it just might be something interesting to tell.
And what situations do you tend to see sort of that scenario, kind of, where a client says, look, I have these, like you said, 5 fields, but these 3 are the main things? Is it, well, I guess it would be more, what sort of data do you actually come across then to?
So the data is can be really diverse, and I think what makes it particularly interesting is, I mentioned earlier on that we allow you to make things match even if they're not exactly the same, right? So in this exercise, it's much simpler. We're just saying it has to be exactly the same to match, but we have a range of rules that will let you do things like tolerance matches. You can do matching based on comparison in the table. So it's like, if you have a table that says A is equivalent to B, then you could match A and B. They're not identical, but we've told you they're equivalent.
You can modify input fields.
Yeah, we can modify the input and normalize it and stuff. So, and moreover, and actually this is something which is not in here, this is especially relevant, is people are interested in matches which are not just perfect matches. One of the main things here is that we work with is people's data quality. That if you have, so a standard kind of financial services case would be, I have data that comes from my broker that tells me what trades I've done, and I have data that comes from my internal systems that say what trades I think I've done, and you'd expect them to match up. And sometimes they won't match up because one side is missing something the other side has got. But sometimes the records are there, but they don't agree. They say you paid a different amount of money or something. So we call these partial matches. Finding those is really important, and because we kind of give them scores as well. So we could say this matches, we calculate this as being 85% the same, right? But generally we'll say these are for these 2 records, this is the best pairing they have. But because the product's really flexible, you can have breaks on all different fields and stuff. So we also let people say, for example, this field must absolutely, don't even bother putting these records together if these fields are different. So that can be a nice case for something like an ID. Yeah, these things will have the same ID. They must match on that. And that makes things easier for everybody. But we also have people that are really freeform stuff where there's no real constraints. They're just like, find the stuff that goes together best. And that's where it gets really interesting, and the complexity, the time complexity is really important because we have to do more work to make that happen.
I think in reconciliation area, sphere, real challenge comes from, so as Matthew mentioned, we have completely different companies which might talk about the same, transaction or event which happened, but they're talking in a completely different language, and they're not obliged, they don't have to use the same standard, the same wording, the same format, and so on and so forth. They have internally, they have their own systems and their own standards. And despite they have their own formats, we still, companies, they still need to make sure, for many, many reasons, from audit perspective, from just making sure that they're not overpaying or underpaying to some clients or companies. They need to make sure that everything is correct as expected, despite the format is different. And this is where our like basically service, like an algorithm coming, stepping in. And the challenge is to be able to recognize that actually event described by this company in this format is absolutely the same as the event described in another company with another format.
Okay. So is that something where I guess machine learning could come in? Is that possible to?
Yeah, I think. Sorry, Stacey.
No, go ahead. Like we do. So I just want to say, like we do use machine learning, but slightly different way. We use machine learning more like help to for helping our customers to set up proper configuration for matching process. So it's slightly different. Yeah.
I think it will. I think there's the option to move into that more. I think the main problem is the performance thing, right? If you did something that was purely ML based, I think it would probably, well, it would not perform as quickly as the kind of deterministic sort of rule based approach we have here. What it can do, I think, is one application we could have is helping, once you've got stuff that doesn't match, looking at it and saying, oh, actually based on our corpus, we think these two things should go together. And then that can help you work out what you need to change in your rules to get those matches. One thing that's probably not going to happen in Duco is that we're just going to let the machine learning stuff just go and match stuff, because in particular in financial services, there's a lot of stuff around auditability and governance. So people will want to know, these two things matched, and they need to match because of the appropriate business criteria. So this rule that says it's okay to tolerate this being different, but it's not okay to tolerate that, that's really important. And if you had that done purely by a sort of black box ML system, I think that would be a problem from a kind of regulatory perspective for a lot of people. But what I think you can do, and I think we will do, is we will use the ML to discover stuff that even the business users have not yet found, and say, hey, you might want to look at this. We think this should go together. We know that we've seen other situations with similar data where these are the things that would match together. And then we can help use that as a suggestion for them to refine, and they can accept it and then codify it in their rules, and then it will happen as business as usual, but more efficiently.
I think in other words, how I can phrase it is just instead of trying to replace people who do reconciliation, our product is helping people. And actually our goal, our Duco platform goal, is to make life easier, like automate everything what can be automated, but not replacing that judgment, like is it a match, is it a break, because it's might be legal issue.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, that makes sense. So it can add like value by, like you were saying, Matthew, by finding things that it might not say, the code you've written might not show as a match, but you wouldn't let it solely create this match. Yeah.
I may be lacking imagination, and maybe this is the way we'll go. But so far, in terms of what we've discussed internally, it's been very much about, we can make suggestions, but what we can't do is take action entirely on behalf of
solely, right.
But yeah, as Stacey said, at the moment, it's the stuff that we have right now is primarily on that kind of configuration time when you are setting up your process. So it can, instead of you needing to pick things and say, I should be linking these things together, it can do an increasing amount of that for you. It's really good, and it's saves people a lot of time. The stuff that we'll come to later, where we start looking at the results and helping refine it, I think that will be the really transformative thing, because that's cost you're paying down every day versus one-off cost at the beginning. So I think that'll be when it gets really even more exciting. I mean, it's already like considerably better than anything our competitors can offer. And I think once we get into that further downstream stage, I think it'll be incredibly compelling.
Sorry for interrupting interesting conversation. Let's check where we are with our other problem.
Thank you for answering my questions, by the way.
Thank you
No problem
for
at all.
asking.
Yeah, it's fun to talk about.
So how are we doing? Like, first of all, did everyone run I don't know, default matching and tests? Are we good with the local configuration like npm and Java, Maven? Do you have any more issues? We're happy to help out with any configuration issue in breakout rooms. Not only with configuration issue, actually.
Do let us know if anybody would like to go into a breakout room, because we can add you. In fact, I'm going to relaunch our poll and see who is following along.
Yeah, just really understand where we are, because we can as well, if we have time, discuss the solution of our first algorithm where we sorting stuff, because it's going to be not as complex as everything else what we discussed. And
okay, I'm going to open up the breakout room. Stacey or Ken, who would like to go in?
Yep.
Yeah, are you going to join in? Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I've just sent somebody there for you. So
I'm really sorry, guys. I think I may need to drop off. I have some questions to answer from some dear Duco colleagues. Hopefully, I may be able to deal with them quickly and rejoin you. But right now, I'm sorry, I need to pop off.
okay.
If I'm not back with you, it's really fun joining you all. I hope you've had some fun with some Duco stuff. And who knows, maybe one day we'll see you crossing our doors. That'd be great.
Well, thank you so much, Matthew. It has been great. I think a lot of people have taken a lot away from this as well. People are following along with it. They really enjoyed. I think they've enjoyed all the conversation as well. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'd love to see you guys again sometime.
Definitely. Great. Thank you so
cheerio.
much. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye. How is everybody getting on with the exercises? Okay, great. Should I assume that nobody is doing the exercise? So I've had 4 responses out of 10 people. How are the rest of you getting on? I'm going to start picking on people. Christy, how are you doing? Christy, are you there? Laurencia?
Hi.
Hi, how's it going?
I'm good. I'm just looking through the codes I'm quite new to Java, so I'm just looking through the code to see how everything works.
Okay, awesome, thank you. Peggy, how's it going for you?
Sorry, took me a while to unmute. I'm mostly just following along for Duco support, so yeah, I'm not a coder at all.
Oh, you're not a coder. Okay.
No, I'm with the Duco people team, and I'm just keeping an eye on things to kind of help facilitate. So
Excellent, thank you. Awesome. Well, lovely to meet you, Peggy. Anyway.
Thank you.
I'm going to pick on Charmaine because I know that Charmaine, you're probably not following along, I imagine, but how are you, Charmaine? Do we still have you? This whole event is happening because of Charmaine. She is fantastic. She pulled the entire thing together and orchestrated the entire event. So thank you very much, Charmaine, for everything that you've done to bring on this evening. Fantastic. Okay. So Nicole, you said, do you do a lot with AWS currently?
Yeah, because I just finished the data engineering bootcamp. So we touched on using some AWS. So we used S3, Lambda, and EC2.
Oh,
I
cool.
was just wondering what other sort of services that Duco use, because I'm guessing they deal with like large streams of data and probably live data. So
that must make it easier to sort of see how everything fits together once you finish doing that sort of thing, and then you can ask those questions and give it the context, I suppose.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
So, are you coming to the hackathon on the 28th of November?
I think I applied. Let me see. Let me check my calendar. Is it the media hack?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, I am.
Awesome.
Yeah, I am.
Great. Well, you'll get to do some of your AWS skills there as well, hopefully. And there'll be a bunch of AWS experts around that you can ask questions to if you want to, and have access to the entire platform for the day. So that should be good.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah, I've been really enjoying these events so far. I came to the Women in Gaming one as well.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. I loved that event. That was a really fun one.
Cool.
It's made me want to enter the games industry.
Honestly.
Yeah.
I was saying to like friends, I left feeling empowered.
That's what we want. That's what we do this for. Excellent. It's very exciting. Yeah, that's great. Shireen, are you still here?
Yes.
Excellent. How are you getting on? Are you enjoying yourself?
I've been really enjoying it. So to other people in the room who don't know why I was in this room, I'm not an engineer, or I'm just way out of my depth in this whole workshop, but I'm here as support for our team, and it was just really lovely to sort of see the engagement and how helpful and insightful people are finding it, and the impact that we can have, as a I work at Duco as well. Sorry, I didn't say that as well. I'm just like a random stranger just going on. But yeah, no, I've been very inspired and just in awe, because those screens full of code, I'm just like, how is this meant to be accessible for all levels? But yeah, no, it was incredible. Yeah.
Excellent. So I was saying earlier, Charmaine, I was telling everybody how amazing you are, because this whole thing is happening because of you. So thank you very much for making it happen.
This is something I'm really passionate about, that like I don't want there to be onlys in the room anymore. I love seeing communities come together for a common purpose and for diversifying the tech scene. So important, incredibly important. What I do is nothing compared to what you do, Charlene. So.
Well, you made it happen. Charmaine reached out to me, I think it was months ago now. We've been planning this for months.
Yeah, I also started the Charlene Hunter fan club. So yeah. Where like me and
don't join it
all the time. We're just constantly fangirling. It's just basically just a WhatsApp chat where it's just Charlene is amazing.
I hope it's just you and one other person.
Well, we tried to roll it out to the bigger group, but everyone was like, what? And then we just went back to just the fan club of the president and the vice president.
That probably makes more sense, I think.
No, but I thought, yeah, this I'm amazed that it's come this far. And I was listening to what Christian was saying as well. Like it was, it sounds like there's so much exciting movement happening in this space, and I'm really excited for what we can partner with Coding Black Females on for more of these type of things, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to do more together and yeah, do what we can really. I think we could do quite a lot of fun stuff, especially in the fintech space. I think it's a space that we've not done that much in yet. So it'd be good to do more to give people more insight into that industry and the sort of roles that are available and the sorts of technologies that people use. I think that would be a good thing.
Yeah, it was really funny when someone brought up Flutter and it stumped both of both Chris and Daryl. They were like, what? Yeah.
It was good though. I like that we had to Google it.
Yeah, no, I'm really pleased about I'm walking on clouds right now. Just so happy about how this event has turned out.
It's amazing. Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, I'm this evening going to go onto the fan club and talk about it as well.
You're in that fan club.
I keep like emailing you being, we have new recruits.
Close the fan club. It's strange.
But yeah, thank you everyone for joining. It was such a pleasure to see everyone actually, engaging and finding it useful.
Absolutely.
And if anyone sees any roles coming up at Duco, please reach out. Yeah, I'm not going to say too much, but keep an eye out in the new year.
Keep an eye out, everyone. And Charmaine has said that you can reach out to her if you need any inside info.
Yeah. Add me on LinkedIn. Keep an eye out in the new year. We're already ramping up a little bit, but in the new year there should be more things coming out. Just favorite the Duco careers page. Yeah, and reach out.
Absolutely. We'll be sharing some of those opportunities as well, so you'll definitely see them floating around. So definitely have a look to see what's coming up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. Yay. I'm gonna turn my camera off until Ken and Stacey return. Otherwise, you have to watch me looking into space. So I'm going to turn myself off for a little while.
Seems like, yeah.
I'm not sure what happened, but
yeah. So I screen shared for a while. Otherwise, people would have to listen to me rambling for a little while. But I just wanted to say thank you very, very much for the workshop this evening. Was there another piece that you were going to show towards the end? I can't remember what we'd said.
So I think what's gonna happen next? We gonna upload like solution. Probably not today. Tomorrow we're gonna upload solution how our version of implementation of sorted matching algorithm and grouped matching algorithm, and it's going to be still available in the repository I shared before, and as well gonna add a bit more suggestions and probably potential troubleshooting for Windows, because as we see like lots of people using Windows, and we can see what kind of issues they're facing. So yeah, so please check the space.
Excellent.
And probably, yeah, I'm probably gonna ask you to probably advertise it a bit. Like I know we have like less people right now, but maybe people who left, they would like to check out the space as well, right?
Yeah, definitely. So we'll be sending everything out to all the people who signed up and attended today, and we will share the video that's on YouTube as well. People get to see that. So it'll be out there. It's all good. Thank you so much for everything you've done this evening. I know that people were following along and they got to enjoy learning some new stuff. So thank you very much for your time and your insight into Java and FinTech and the fantastic like order matching that I really want to have a go at myself. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
No worries. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Anastasia, Gabariva Paruski?
Sorry?
Gabarita Paruski?
Oh, there's something like weird with the sound. Like I can hear. Not
oh, never mind.
Could you
never mind. Bye. Gabarita Paruski. Ruski.
What does it mean?
No. Okay, never mind.
Sure
I thought you were Russian. I was trying to say thank you in Russian. Thank you. Sorry. I thought you were Russian, Anastasia.
Do you hear me, guys?
We can hear you.
Yeah, I can.
Thank you so much for your help, Anastasia. Thank you for your help.
Oh, you're welcome. I can hear very bad. I'm not sure what happened, but
Sure, just trying
please,
to
let me, like, if Russian. There are further questions, just I think you can check out my contacts in repository, and just please ask me anything related to the project and not related to the project. I'm happy to help out.
Stacey, Tessie said thank you in Russian, which was super, super impressive.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tessie. That was awesome. And thank you, Anastasia. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Charmaine, for making this whole event happen. So thank you very much. I am going to click the end button, but I hope everybody has lovely evenings. I hope everyone stays safe, looks after themselves, and has some dinner, which I'm going to do now. So thank you very much. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.